everyone, Kate back for the next in my Cinderella Chronicles video series. So I have a couple movies today, some picture books, and a couple novel retellings to tell you about. The first is really classic and iconic. It's the 1950s Disney cartoon. There is just such a special place in my heart for this one. I know the character development of the prince in this is nil. It's just really not there, but I'm just so fond of it because I grew up with it. And I think I've just decided that the 1950s Cinderella is just about the title character of Cinderella and her relationships with the stepsisters and the stepmother, but also the fun that she has with the mice that she's friends with, and Bruno the dog, and the horse whose name I can't remember, but just kind of seeing her life in this house. And it's also just a very cozy, entertaining cartoon. So the prince has a total of like 2 scenes. I didn't realize it was quite that few until I started watching, but I think he's in 2 scenes and he has less than 10 lines. So it's really, really scant as far as getting to know the prince. That's definitely a weakness of it. And Cinderella does not have, I'd say, much else to her besides like, she just feels kind of one-dimensional. So I think that it's a very well done cartoon. I'm very fond of it. We had the VHS tape growing up. I'm very nostalgic for it. So definitely enjoy it for that. And I think it did its job. You know, those were the kinds of cartoons that were coming out then. You know, just kind of really awesome drawings, beautiful drawings. The songs are fun. But then as far as character development goes, there's not much there, but I am still very fond of it as a cartoon. Maybe not the best rendition of Cinderella, but I think it's a great cartoon. And my son Peter thoroughly enjoyed it. He loved all that there was with the mice. And then moving on was the 1947 Soviet Russia Zolushka. So I'm not gonna lie, going into this, I was pretty skeptical. I didn't know what I was going to think, kind of Soviet film. I didn't know what I was going to make of it. But I have to say, I was incredibly pleasantly surprised by this film. This is on Amazon Prime if you are interested in watching it, and it is on YouTube, but I could not find English closed captioning, so I was pleased to see it was on Amazon Prime, which I have, and so I was just able to put the subtitles on there. But this one was just very charming and comical, especially the king in this. He was so funny. He so wanted his son to get married, and he was so worked up about it that when he thought anything was kind of hindering the process, he would tear off his wig and his crown. And he was just so funny, and he loved Cinderella. The moment he saw her show up at the ball, they hit it off right away. And then it's funny because she tells him that he has a tear in the collar of his, you know, his dressy blouse that he has on, and she pulls out, she has like essentially a little like diamond encrusted fanny pack, and pulls out a needle and thread and fixes his collar then and there. Then she walks in to the ball and serenades everyone with a song, and then kind of goes off into a little dreamy land with a prince for a little bit. But the fun things about this, that, like I said, was that, you know, the king was just so funny. I think also there were a couple quippy little scenes, quippy little lines with the stepmother and the stepsisters. And in the beginning of the movie, Cinderella's father is hiding in the woods from his wife, and he says, I don't know what the actual Russian line would be, but the translated subtitle said, you know, my wife was cute when I married her, but boy, she's scary. So just some really funny things. Also, I really liked that the fairy godmother who transformed everything had an apprentice who was this young boy who was, I think, maybe like 12 or 13, and he was so enamored with Cinderella, and he was just so sweet. So that was a really sweet element about it. And it just comes to the end, and Cinderella's one stepsister manages to look like she has the slipper on and makes it all the way to the palace, but when she tries to dance, she's hobbling, and then the slipper comes off. So like I said, all in all, a pleasant surprise, very fun. I think it was maybe an hour and a half. I can't quite remember the length, but yeah, I'd say I was definitely pleasantly surprised by this, and I recommend it. Then kind of going to really ridiculous is a 1960 film starring Jerry Lewis called Cinderfella. So this was kind of a gender swapped one where Cinderfella lives with his wicked stepmother and his wicked stepbrothers. And his father passed away when he was little, and she willed the estate. His father passed away when he was a child, and he willed the estate to the stepmother with the condition that she would still take care of him. But of course, over the years, she's come to resent it. Now, this one was exactly what I thought it was going to be when I saw a 1960s film starring Jerry Lewis called Cinderfella. It was kind of as ridiculous as I was envisioning. But if you like Jerry Lewis's humor, he is just a genius with physical comedy. Kind of lots of painful situations where he's like continually trying to close a door and doing it really awkwardly. Or what's another thing he's trying to do? Trying to like hand drinks to each of them, but sidling past them and then getting stuck. And so lots of like, it's like painful how long he draws it out, but it's also really funny, if that makes sense at all. So if you like Jerry Lewis, I think you will enjoy this. The romance with the princess has about the same level of character development as the prince does in the 1950s Disney cartoon. So they have a fun dance together when he gets to the ball, and then they talk for a couple of minutes, and then she, goes to him a couple days later and says that she's in love with him and desperately in love with him, and she can't live without him. So yes, all in all, it was exactly what I was expecting. So if you want something that's like really ridiculous, over the top with the hokiness, the cheesiness, it's super campy. I don't know any other words, that I have to describe it. But it's really fun. It's a laugh. So it's good for what it is. Now a couple picture books, and I am really pleased with all of the like multiculturalism and diversity I'm seeing in the Cinderella picture books. So it's just really nice when I'm looking at so many picture books to have such a cool variety and everything that there is. So this is called Cendrillon. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I assume the L is said like a Y, but this is a Caribbean retelling. And it was just so much fun when the fairy godmother is the narrator of the story. And she talks about when she was little, she was given a wand and told, she could only use it on certain instances, but she didn't know when she was supposed to use it. And this is by Robert D. Sansucci and illustrated by Brian Pinkney. And the illustrations are so beautiful. It's like somebody just swept a paintbrush all throughout the book. And I just love these. The bright, vibrant colors really, to me, are evocative of the Caribbean. And here she is with the son at the ball. And I can't remember. I think he's a duke's son. His name is Paul. And it says, his eyes blazing with love fire. So it was just a very sweet read. I really liked it. And then here's another picture I really like. This is when he comes to her with the shoe. So, which I think is a little satin slipper. Yeah, it's a satin slipper. So I like that in the different versions, you have different shoes that are appropriate for that version. Now, a really cool one that kind of gives you the scope of Cinderella. This is called Glass Slipper Gold Sandal, a worldwide Cinderella by Newbery Award-winning author Paul Fleischman and illustrated by Julie Pashkis. So what's really spectacular about this one? Well, it uses, you can see the map here on all the different countries. So we have Laos, Indonesia, Zimbabwe, Japan, Korea, China, India, Iran, Iraq, France, Poland, Germany, Russia, Ireland, Mexico, Appalachia, and the West Indies. So on each page, it's going to have, it narrates and it takes from several different places there. So on this one at the bottom, it says Korea. On this one, it says Iraq. And then as you continue moving through it, it uses from all sorts of different ones: Russia, Iran, India, and Ireland. So I think that's really cool just to see what a universal tale it is. And yeah, just really neat to see. Next, super fun one. I found that I love this fairy tale so much that I'm really enjoying all of the creativity and all of the different retellings. So this one is from a series called Far Out Fairy Tales. It's a graphic novel by Joey Como and illustrated by Omar Lozano, and this is Ninjarella. So I really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting to, like I said, but I don't know. Maybe it's that I just love the story of Cinderella so much. So what happens is Cinderella's mother passes away, and in her grief, she decides she will be a ninja, and she wants to be Ninjarella. She doesn't want to be referred to as her original name. And then her father remarries, and the stepsisters are super snarky, yada yada. Her fairy god ninja comes to visit her, and look at this snazzy outfit she gives her to go to the ball. And while she's there, something very an exciting turn of events happens. So I won't give them away, and I'll just let you know. I'll let you see for yourself. But I highly recommend Ninjarella. Then one that is another super fun one is called Interstellar Cinderella by Deborah Underwood, illustrated by Meg Hunt. So this is an outer space retelling, and it is about Cinderella, who is a space mechanic, who has a little robot mouse. So I think it's really neat to see the special ways they incorporate the different props that are in Cinderella, like pumpkins or mice. And here is the wicked stepmother and stepsisters, scheming and plotting like they do. And then there's Cinderella all tied up in her little spaceship. So really fun, creative. I'm loving to, seeing all this creativity in the retellings. And then 2 novel retellings to tell you about. The first, I originally gave 3 stars, but after reading the second one that I'll tell you about, I knocked it down to 2 stars because it seemed all right. And then after reading the next one, I thought, no. So it's called The Amaranth Enchantment. Amaranth Enchantment is about Lucinda, whose parents passed away when she was little. So she was taken in by her uncle and her reluctantly by her aunt. And they run a jewelry store, and she's always worked for them. And not much exciting happens until one day a witch walks into the store and says she has a amaranth stone and she wants them to set it. And this kind of sets off a current, a whole trail of events. But in this one, it was so plot heavy that there really wasn't much that happened with the character development. And I think you can still have tons of plot, but also character development. It was like the magic in it kind of took over the show, and I kind of wanted to get to know Lucinda better. I wanted to get to know the prince better and the different friends that she had. So overall, it wasn't bad. I did like it turns out that Lucinda and the fairy godmother have a sort of mother-daughter relationship towards the end. I liked that aspect of it, but like I said, once I got to the end, and now I'm about a week out from reading it, I'm realizing it's unfortunately a pretty forgettable story. And then the next book that I read, which I gave 4 stars to, made me realize just how forgettable The Amaranth Enchantment was. So the next one that I read is in the Once Upon a Time series by Cameron Doki. And this one is called Before Midnight. And what I love about it is it just starts out so fairy tale. It's romantic sounding, and I love that you just felt like you leapt right into this super magical land and world. And I liked that it felt so fairy tale like, but it wasn't lacking in character development at all. And I loved seeing what this had that I thought the Amaranth Enchantment especially didn't have was so much like human interest, human contact. And I loved seeing the kind of blossoming friendships and relationships that Cinderella had, or Cendrillon as she's called in this, with her stepmother and stepsisters. On the night that Cendrillon is born, he shows up to meet her, and he shows up with a baby boy, and he doesn't tell them where he's from, who he is, and he just says, take him, and then he leaves after realizing that his wife has died. So it's really special to see Cendrillon's growing relationship with Raoul, who's the name of the baby, and them growing up together. I loved that friendship that they had. Then eventually, one day, after Cinderella wishes for a mother and sisters to love, her new stepmother and stepsister show up, and the relationship definitely doesn't start off well. They didn't even know that she existed. But I love seeing these different relationships fostered, and it just brings a really special, fun element to it. So I loved just the really glamorous writing and then how well she incorporated the relationships. So what I'm really excited about is in this Once Upon a Time series, there are about, I think, 15 different fairy tales that she has interpreted and retold. Yes, so by the end of the story, and it wasn't long, it was around 250 pages, but she did so much in that time. So I'm just really thoroughly impressed, and I highly recommend Before Midnight. It's a very just magical and all around just wonderful retelling. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you end up trying out any of these ones that I tried out. I am definitely not done with this project, and I'll keep updating you as I go along, and I will see you guys for another video soon. Bye.